Welcome back to the lab. Bruce McLaren, Taupo Motorsport Park. Excuse the lighting going a bit chonky. As you can see, the weather here is not great. Yesterday was worse, and the car was not very happy yesterday either. So I'll totally fess up. What I did there was I left a nut loose on the alternator, the main power stud on the alternator, and the car wasn't very happy with that. You can see in the logs everything was great. It was fine when it was at home, and it was fine for the warm-up lap, although the clutch was slipping because it hadn't been bed in properly yet. Didn't really give it much of a chance. I thought it would be pretty much okay straight away, but it wasn't. It was coming right. Started to do we can't call it hot, a simmering lap maybe, because it's so wet. Just basically, as soon as I started getting into it, anything more than 3.5, say 4,000 RPM, car started behaving like it was a crank angle sensor fault. Missing and cutting, and shift lights were coming on at $3,000, $4,000. Had a bit of a look at it. A little bit too hard to diagnose at the track and fluff around here. I mean, if I'd actually really put the effort in, I could have. And the big clue there was the electronic boot release. The handle was not working, and that's driven off the main power stud on the alternator via a fuse. I stupidly thought maybe the fuse had fallen out and it was two different problems at the same time, but it wasn't. Sorted out the small stuff, and the big stuff will sort itself out. So I went home, 2 hours in the rain. The weather was good enough in Hamilton. I could get underneath the car, change the crank angle sensor. Wouldn't go at all. Turns out the spare one was a dud, so that went in the rubbish bin. Put my other spare one in because I had two, and she fired up and ran, towed it down the road somewhere out in the wop-wops, not to not annoy anyone. Tried to give it some revs, again same fault. Came back home, that's when I looked at the boot release, tried to figure that out, sort that out first and worry about everything else later. So I did that, towed it out and fixed, mint. So all it was is a nut had come loose on the main alternator stud, allowing static electricity to build up in the charging system. The ECU log, the voltage is being fine, is having no issues, but I think the frequency for that channel is set quite low, so it wouldn't have been picking up the spikes and everything. But the ECU obviously was seeing it, and you can see it in the logs. I'll see if I can film the laptop for you later on. So anyway, swap the camera around. This is pretty much what we had yesterday. Weather forecast is to improve by lunchtime. So we got a session in the morning. Got the boys having a look at the car. We got a session in the morning, another one after lunch, and then top 10 shootout later on in the day. So as long as I do a reasonable run this morning, we should get into the top 10 shootout, and that's when the track should be dry, but let's not call it sticky because they never are after it's been raining. So I'm not going to, I doubt I'll see a personal best, but all things going according to plan, we could possibly take the win for the round, although I've probably just jinxed myself saying that. You never say that, do you guys? Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself, shut your face. So this won't go up until afterwards anyway, so the whole world won't hear me see that, only that.
It's called editing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we had one of these relays. Are they Nava? I think they're Nava relays. They're a good relay, they've got a built-in fuse, but they do have their issues. The one that runs the demisting fan and the fog lights on the back and the power supply to turn the power steering on, that one was a bit dicky, and sometimes it wouldn't turn on when you turned everything else on. Once it was on, it would stay on, but that's no good. So that's been changed out for a new one, and I brought a spare as well. So we've got everything sorted out. And some knob, Glenn, put the front wheels on backwards. You idiot, had the left on the right and the right on the left. So the car was just trying to tell me that today or yesterday was not the day. So we've got these things all sorted out now, and we're back, and we'll give it another crack. Alrighty, first session done for the day. There it is there, it's not broken yet. It's quite noisy out here, I'll stay inside. That clutch isn't no good, it's not holding. Just, let's blame it on the pressure, the friction plate on the flywheel that I've machined. I just whatever. That's possibly the problem. Thought it would have bedded in that session, but no, it just can't handle it, can't hold torque. So I'm busy playing with the throttle, trying not to use anything more than about half throttle. Not sure what the lap times were that time, we'll find out later on. The car went pretty bloody good otherwise, so we'll see how we get on. It's going to be, if it dries out, it's going to be hard work competing with everyone else, because they won't have issues with clutch slipping, and they'll have more traction, so they'll be able to go a lot quicker than what they are now, whereas I'm probably not going to increase my, well, definitely not my straight line pace. The clutch is less go as soon as you try and hammer it, so that's the way it goes. I guess we're going to have to go for a custom flywheel, tilt and twin plate clutch or something like that. We'll see how it goes. It's got a month for the next round, so I better set aside another week to get that done. Okay, so post trackside editing of this shonky video that I'm making for you. Here we go. We'll go for a ride in the car. If the track's dried, 100% dry. I mean, you might be able to see it. The GoPro mounted on the rear firewall there kind of picks up a lot of the cabin lighting. Takes that into account with its contrast and all that sort of carry on. So it's quite bright outside, very hard to see what's going on. But we're chasing Greg in his MR2, who set a personal best, and he beat us by something, one and a half, nearly 2 seconds, whatever it was. And ahead of him is Ben in his Evo, which I don't think we can see in my video. He was pushing pretty hard, did well, won the round, fell off 3 times, I think, like straight ahead on the main straight and straight ahead into the dirt trap on the pit straight. So he was pushing hard, but he did well and he won the round. I mean, that's half the battle, is actually getting there with the car. It's not a pile of junk. And if your clutch is slipping, it's not good. That's a pile of junk. But hey, let's go for a ride, and then we'll talk about what we're doing to rectify all those things. lots of fun, eh? It happens. You can't always turn up with a perfect car, so never mind. Let's move on with that. What I've done in the meantime is a bunch of phone calls to various people around New Zealand who are supplying various clutches and stuff. Put a post up on a Facebook page called Race Cars and Sheds, just to see who's used what and what issues they've had. I'm fully aware of what's out there, what my options are to buy, right? So I know everything, well, not everything, know most of the gear that's out there and what it costs and all that sort of carry on. We don't all have the opportunity to go through and test multiple products and figure out what their flaws are. So sometimes it's a good idea just to put it out there and say, guys, who's drunk Mr. Smith's vodka? Is it any good or not? Is it better than Mr. Black's vodka? Or, you know, and you get an answer, and you don't have to go and try it yourself and find out the hard way, as we've just done with the setup that's in the car right now. It could be that friction surface on the flow. That could be the problem. I don't personally think that is. It was lathed up, it was machined up, it was true. I could try it. It's a lot of effort to get in there and change just that friction plate and that friction surface on the flywheel and try again. Whether it would be worth it or not, I don't know. So I have ordered a new friction surface for the flywheel. That is a backup plan if I can't organise a twin plate clutch arrangement or triple plate clutch arrangement in the new flywheel or an adapter or whatever we're doing. If I can't arrange something else in the time frame that we've got, my backup plan is pull it all to pieces, put a new friction surface in the flywheel, put a new friction plate in there, put it back together with the pressure plate that we did have in there before, an equivalent of that, and it's going to work, right? Should work before. The possibility is that the stuff that I've done with the intercooler may have increased the power, the torque output of the car just beyond what that clutch can handle. So, you know, if you've got, I just throw bullshit numbers out because I can't remember exactly what they are. If you've got 800 Newton meters on the dot and it's holding, and its limit is 810 Newton meters, if you put 811 Newton meters in there, it'll slip. It's not just going to slip just a little bit. Once it slips, it's gone, right? It's just going to zing it through the roof, as you saw in the previous footage. As soon as it lets go, it doesn't catch it again. It's just gone, and it doesn't stand a chance. So it could be that. It could be absolutely nothing wrong with the clutch. It's just that it might not be good enough for the power that's going into it now. Maybe. Who knows? It's not an excuse for what I put into it. It's just we need an answer, so we don't even need an answer, do we? We just need it fixed. So other things I've done. Let's swap the camera. Hang on. Which button is it? There's the camera swap. That's a nice car, eh? I'm tidying up that, but anyway. In here, down there, is a slip yoke on the gearbox, right? So when you have it in the, it's out of a two-wheel drive Nissan Ute. So when you have a solid drive shaft, it goes from there to the diff, and diff goes up and down. The drive shaft comes in and out like this. So there's a slip yoke in the end of the gearbox that's been modified to accept a flange for a CV joint. And then there's a CV joint down here somewhere beside that dead pedal. And that's both of those joints, this one here and this one over here, they are what's called plunging joints, right? So that shaft can go in and out of the CV joint. The problem is there, we've got a plunging joint, and a slip joint. And everyone reckons, I'll swap this back, seeing face. Everyone reckons there's not a problem. The shaft will just find its natural center and will stay there. In reality, what's happening in this car is slip joint moves forward, compresses the two plunging CV joints against their limit of travel on each end. So our dog's lost. Sam, what are you doing? I'm looking after our other dog here this morning. You want to get past there? You guys don't want to see this, but hello. Hello, Sammy. What you doing? You're going to scratch my fake carbon fibre, aren't you?
Well, go have a sleep then if you're tired.
Anyway, so that's not ideal, right? It just makes a bit of noise and it's quite unnerving as a driver. It's not necessarily going to cause an actual problem. It's probably going to wear the grease covers on the end of the CV joints in the end. Be quiet. But this doesn't do massive high Ks, right? So as long as you keep on top of it with maintenance, keep an eye on it, you'll be fine. But I've done the research. I did a long time ago. They're expensive and I held off on buying them. But you can buy non-plunging style CV joints to fit in that exact same spot. They will just bolt in. They're apparently exactly the same, according to what I've been told. And fingers crossed they are, because they're bloody expensive. So $285 each. Ordered a pair of those. So we don't need plunging joint on either end of the shaft, because we've got slip joint on the gearbox, like I said. So that'll take care of that. And I think they'll be more efficient, pardon me, as far as resistance and heating up the grease and temperatures in the joints and all that sort of carry on, because they're a non-plunging joint. It's a better system as far as operating at higher angles than a plunging joint. So I've done that. They're on the way. The friction plate insert thingy, dooflicky, bit of metal that was all cooked and bent and everything, that's on its way from Z1 Motorsports, and we should see all of those, I would expect, in about 7 or 8 days, depending on, hopefully it doesn't go on a boat and get stuck in the Suez Canal. They're all FedEx air freight type stuff, so that's not going to happen. Then we'll get into it. We'll get this thing on the hoist and we'll sort it out. I'll take it to pieces. We'll have a look, see if we can figure it out, do an autopsy and see what was going wrong. We'll find out then. Right, cheers, boy.